Welcome back to our study in the book of Joshua. The theme of this book is all about being strong and having good courage. It's a quote right out of the first chapter and appears in a couple others of the book of Joshua. It's what the Lord told Joshua and the people of Israel, to be strong and of good courage. Today, as we have been for a couple of weeks now, this is all about the dividing and the allotment of the promised land after basically the battles are over with in the first half. We are in the second half of the chapter. And today we'll be looking at the tribe, the half tribe of Manasseh actually, and we will call that Manasseh West. You'll see why I say that in just a minute. Here is the outline that we are following. And we're wrapping up letter A. And here's what we've looked at. And you can see what's been in this area. And some of the tribes already have received their land. Reuben, Gad, and East Manasseh. Caleb, Judah, and Ephraim have theirs. And now it's West Manasseh's turn. And if you look at the area, all of a sudden you can understand sort of easy perimeters and easy borderlines, obviously, is the Mediterranean Sea and bodies of water, rivers. In this case, the Jordan River ties the Dead Sea from the south to the Sea of Galilee on the north, and then there are feeding rivers. In fact, the Jordan River goes much further north of the Sea of Galilee and feeds out of the mountains. So, we are looking at a large area of land. Keep in mind Ephraim, who is just south of Manasseh here, and Manasseh were two of the sons of Joseph and his boys. And so in honor of Joseph being one of the sons of Israel, in honor of his faithfulness in Egypt, and preservation and growth of the nation and honoring God, his two boys were granted separate portions of land that would come under his name. All right, the first and all of the verses just about have to do with West Manasseh. And let me tell you right off the bat, if you hang with me on this, if you open your Bible and read through and say, this gets boring, it can. I have to admit that. But I hope to put some life into it. It is the Word of God. And I will not be reading every verse, but I will be alluding to some things. And I have some slideshows along the way on some of the places and the cities, but not in depth, but enough for me to say, well, look, this happened here on a couple of their main places. So hang with me if you would, and we'll get underway. Here's Joshua and the lot of Manasseh. And here's some discussion that goes along with it. And we're going to see how these things get straightened out. So I want to read some verses early on, and then when it starts talking about the families and what they get, we'll move to the cities. There was also a lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, to wit, for Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, the father of Gilead. Because he was a man of war, therefore he had Gilead and Bashan. All right, Gilead and Bashan were major fortresses and major battles to be won and hard. And so this family is being honored. The word lot means pebbles, like in a bag that they would pull out to make decisions, and Manasseh means causing to forget. There was also a lot for the rest of the children of Manasseh. All right, so the rest of the kids, someone's getting my attention. The rest of the children of Manasseh by their families are going to have the land divided out for them. All right, so I'm going to move on right now. Okay, and then we come across a situation here, and we're going to see some numbers and how this problem gets solved. But Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, had no sons, but daughters. And these are the names of its daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. All right, so 5 girls. And they came near before Eleazar the priest and before Joshua the son of Nun and before the princes, saying, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brethren. Therefore, according to the commandment of the Lord, he gave them an inheritance among the brethren of their father." So what they're saying is this: look, you had 10 portions of the land, and you have 5 boys, sons, that you've already divided up. And they said, we deserve a portion. God promised us that. It's not our fault that we all ended up being girls back to our father. That needs to be honored. And so they had a viable concern. And here is a little bit of what I said already to you. And there fell 10 portions to Manasseh beside the land of Gilead and Bashan, which were on the other side of Jordan. So 10 portions. Just think of this area, dividing it, and you can divide it 10 ways. And so the 5 guys, really, if nothing was said, they were going to get a double portion probably. Because the daughters of Manasseh had an inheritance among his sons, and the rest of Manasseh's sons had the land of Gilead. So what's happening here? All right, I think you can see what's going to happen. The western portion of the land allotted to the tribe of Manasseh was divided into 10 portions because of the male descendants who had sons, and they consisted of 5 families, to which, consequently, 5 shares were given out. And the 6th family, namely the posterity or the children of Hepher, being all women, the 5 daughters, they were each allotted one of the 5 portions that were left. So that's how the land got divided up. All right, now in verses 7 through 11, we read all about the borderlines and people and the families that get the portions are being given, the land allotments. And the word Shechem comes up here, and that's going to be our first stop. And you can read a little bit about the families and what goes. But what happened in the Bible at Shechem? That keeps coming up. And so some research gave me these 7 things. First of all, Shechem is first mentioned as Abraham comes into the promised land, as the Lord saying, "Look, Abraham, I give you all this land, and you're here at Shechem. This is part of your stuff too." All right? And so Abraham moves on a little bit. He moves more south, actually. And Jacob, this is 2 generations later. Abraham has Isaac. Isaac has Jacob and Esau. Jacob buys a plot of land and for his family. And Dinah, which is a member of his family, is raped here. And there is a real big stink and a real big mess. But this is all back in the book of Genesis. Jacob's sons are tending the sheep here before Joseph finds them in Dothan. And so Jacob has all these sons, and Joseph being one of them, he's off, he's kept at home, he's sort of privileged, and he goes and finds him at Dothan. It's not much time after this that they hate him, and they sell him off into Egypt. The covenant, now here we are in the book of Joshua, the covenant is confirmed during the conquest at this place. The Lord visits Joshua and tells him, "Look, everything I promised to your father Abraham, and to Isaac, and to Jacob, and to Joseph, and to Moses, I promise it to you and your people." Nothing changed. The city is set aside as a Levitical city and a city of refuge. We're coming to that in the future. Joseph is buried here. Remember, they brought his bones out of Egypt, carried him out. He's buried here, and the 10 tribes reject Rehoboam as the king of the nation. And henceforth, the nation is divided with Israel, the northern kingdom, which is Jeroboam, their new king, And then basically the two tribes that are left in the south, mainly Judah, is a southern kingdom named Judah, where Jerusalem is. Rehoboam is Solomon's son. He took bad advice from his friends who were young and said, raise taxes and you can be even more lavish than your father, instead of cutting them. So here's a little bit of Shechem. You can see that present-day civilization builds near there and around archaeological digs, but they are not allowed to build over them. This was a fortified city. Here's part of their wall. Do you see the sort of dip? They would put water there, or maybe hide in water, sharp spears, things like that. Here's the gate, one of the gates to the city. Large stones. And unfortunately, here's a temple to Baal, the main false god of the Canaanites. Do you see the column stones? That gives you an idea of the temple. All right, now we move on. It talks about dividing up land among other of the sons. The five daughters have theirs, but these are the other five. And all of a sudden we come now down to Endor and Megiddo. And you see them down later on in this verse. And so what in the world happened in the Bible at Endor? And I find this fascinating, but really sad. It's first mentioned in Joshua 17, and guess where we are? And it fell within the tribal allotments to Manasseh. So Endor is obviously in where we're looking at today. It's not much further on in a few hundred years here that Saul will go here. He will leave Judah, which is in the south, and come all the way north up to Endor to consult a witch that lives there the evening before the Battle of Gilboa, in which Saul is killed. You can read about that story. Later on in the book of Judges, which is after Joshua, it was the scene of the rout of Jabin and Sisera after being defeated by Barak and Deborah. It's the victories also told about in Psalm 83, verses 9 to 10. As of this Bible lesson and my teaching this today, there is no exact location nor a known location or even anything found, any indicators where Endor is. They look for it, but they can't place it. Here's a guess, but we know it's in Manasseh somewhere. The Canaanites are not driven out, and so we read here, yet the children of Manasseh could not drive out the inhabitants of those cities like Endor that I read to you, and some of that list of other cities there, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land. So I put in red here, all these towns were in the northwestern corner, far north. And why could they not defeat them? Especially Endor was just a little village. It wasn't big. But remember what was there was witchcraft, was evil. In all of these cities, there is great evil and idol worship. And where Satan is, you need to have the power of God before you attack. The Bible says, yet it came to pass when the children of Israel were waxen strong, when they were really feeling strong, that they put the Canaanites to tribute, but did not utterly drive them out. Now you see that they didn't. The intent was not to kill them, but to get them out of there. Just drive them away, have them vacate the cities and go somewhere else. And that's what a bulk of the people in Canaan did when they heard Joshua was coming. And so they got real strong, and they taxed them and put them into servitude. But they didn't drive them out. They were still there. And so their God and their lifestyle was still the same. Then in verses 14 to 18, we read about the children of Joseph as for one more lot. And so what happens here, and I'll read it, and we're done with the chapter, except one more. I'm going to go visit Megiddo. The two tribes join in laying a complaint before the leader as to the narrow boundaries of their allotment and its insufficiency for them to live in and for them to grow, basically. Joshua's answer was full of wisdom as well as patriotism. He was going to appeal to that. Knowing their character, he treated them accordingly, and he turned all their arguments against them. Thus he nailed them for their unbelief and cowardice. Wow. And so we read what happens here. The children of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, "Why have you given me but one lot and one portion to inherit, seeing I'm a great people, for as much as the Lord has blessed me?" And Joshua answered them, If you be a great people, then get you up to the wood country and cut down for thyself there in the land of the Perizzites and of the giants, if Mount Ephraim be too narrow for you," meaning that there's a mountain that narrowed their land down. They couldn't build on the mountain. He says, so if that's a problem, keep going north. It's your land. Chase people out. And the children of Joseph said, "The hill is not enough for us. We just don't want the hill. And all the Canaanites that dwell in the land of the valley, we want the valleys too, have chariots of iron, both they who are Beth Shean and her towns, and they who are of the Valley of Jezreel." And Joshua spoke unto the house of Joseph, even to Ephraim and to Manasseh, both of these tribes, saying, "You're a great people." Here's Joshua, how Joshua answers them. "And have great power. Thou shalt not have one lot only." You don't have to. "But the mountain shall be yours, for it is a wood, and thou shalt cut it down, and the ongoings of it shall be yours. For you shall drive out the Canaanites, though they have iron chariots, and though they be strong." So he tells them, look, you can have all you want. Go drive them out. Take it. It's yours. Quit whining. Have faith and trust in the Lord. Now, I can't leave Manasseh without something of just a very short slide presentation of the Valley of Jezreel. And of course, that, by the way, falls in Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh. As we look at it today, the tribal lines are long gone. It's just one nation of Israel. The Jezreel, or the Valley of Jezreel, is roughly 145 square miles in size. It's bounded on the north by the Nazareth Mountains and Mount Tabor. You're going to see that in a minute. And on the east and south by Mount Gilboa, and on the mountains of Samaria, respectively, on the west, Mount Carmel. So mountains surround the Jezreel Valley, and that's a lot of property. And you're overlooking at it right now, some of it, the vastness of it. Can you see, and I'll go ahead and say this, we know in the book of Revelation and the Old Testament, Armageddon will be fought here. A great battle. It'll start and it'll move down into Jerusalem. Huge valley. And at least 25 major battles have been fought down through this valley and at Megiddo. At least. And so there's Megiddo right pretty much near one of the mountain ranges, Mount Carmel, and that range. What happened here, other than what's going to happen in the future? Abraham took up residence here. He lived here. Solomon made a great major fortress in the north. And all Ahab did was he added palace. He added a lot of stuff there just to fortify that entire area. 3 chapters later, and this still has to do with Ahab, Naboth's vineyards here, and this is where Jezebel and Ahab cries for the vineyard, and Jezebel has Naboth killed. So whiny Ahab can have a vineyard. Later on, Joram's resident. He's one of the kings of the northern kingdom. He continues his residence here. And we know that there's a big battle. Jehu kills King Ahab, his wife and friends, out on the plains of Megiddo. Gideon's battle with the Midianites has happened here. The death and the defeat of the Israelites under Saul and Jonathan. Now, we're a little earlier than what I just shared with you. And in fleeing, the nurse of Jonathan's son fell with the child, and he became lame. Child's name was Mephibosheth. And he was brought in to the palace by David as being Jonathan's son and honored greatly. Here's Mount Gilboa and the Jezreel Valley beyond it. Here's Megiddo, air view. It was bigger than just what you're looking at there. All throughout the valley, one of the huge agricultural things is the growing of sunflower fields, of sunflowers. And we were there, we saw them. Huge. And Israel is the largest exporter of sunflower seeds and sunflowers. They grow them all in the Jezreel Valley. So, what's the walk away? What's when you're tired of fighting? And you remember the sons of Joseph, these two tribes, they were just tired of fighting, and so they just put up. They took the course of least resistance. Well, we'll live with them, and then they get aggravated. Well, we'll make them pay us money. And they get more aggravated because they know they're not right for the Lord. And so when you get tired of fighting, and Joshua got tired of fighting, the children of Israel got tired. And that was one of the two mistakes Joshua made, that he didn't finish and conquer all the land. He left it up to the tribes. And he needed to get on them like he did these two. And so what you do is you ask someone else to do your work. What God has asked you to do, or what you've been given, you just ask someone else to do it. And you think that's okay, but it's not. You need to do what God asked you to do and finish it. The second thing, and the second point, you ask for more from someone else instead of getting it for yourself. And so it's like sitting at the dinner table. Mom, while you're up, would you get? For me. So you're too lazy. And my mom most of the time would say, you've got two legs, get up and get it yourself. And we would. But when we're tired of fighting, we tend to ask for more from someone instead of getting it for ourselves. When we get them to do our work, we ask more of them then. And lastly, you forget quickly who has blessed you and promised you victory. You know, that promise of victory never left Joshua, never left Caleb, never left that fighting force in that army of Israel, never left the tribes. As long as they were all living, even if Joshua said, go fight the battle and finish it, while he should have been there to do it, they still could have done it and had the power of the Lord and the strength and the courage from God. But, you forget quickly. We tend to forget quickly what God has done for us because we've moved on in our life and we just think God will always be with us. Well, he is with us, but is he moving in our lives and is he using us? Thanks for joining in this. Really appreciate you sticking with us. And we'll be back with the next chapter. And I'll continue the slideshows of some of the major cities or places of the tribes and what they get.